I'm in love. Yeah, yeah. Hey, I'm in love. It just wasn't like what it was with Robyn.
Hot take: Cody isn't a genuine narcissist. This references season 6, so it's not a spoiler for the latest season. But if you've just started watching the show from the beginning, you might want to skip this. I work in Flagstaff, teaching trauma-informed parenting classes and working in behavioral health. I don't believe Cody is a true narcissist. He exhibits narcissistic traits and is the product of a patriarchal, abusive upbringing, a misogynistic religious doctrine, an inflated ego, internalized homophobia, and untreated ADHD. I've been following this show since it first aired and recently revisited season 6, where his father and brother pass away. It's striking how his extremely abusive childhood is barely touched upon. It seems more than just a case of rejection or lack of support from his father. The language Cody uses when talking about his dad is very carefully chosen and strongly suggests abuse. Considering his brother was clearly their father's favorite, embodying traditional toughness and masculinity, despite rejecting AUB religion and polygamy, Cody likely saw his father's faith as a way to prove his masculinity and gain his father's approval. I don't think Cody ever genuinely and personally embraced the concept of polygamy. The truth is, despite my strong dislike for Cody, I recognize many moments of emotional honesty from him throughout the seasons. For instance, he initially accepted Leon when they announced their engagement, which starkly conflicts with his religious beliefs and, by extension, his masculine identity. A true narcissist wouldn't do that, even for the cameras. Regarding some of the awful things he says, like Yisabel having surgery alone, I genuinely think that's an unfiltered ADHD thought process at play. His remorse for those comments seemed sincere, not just for the cameras. His body language reflected true regret. I've seen this pattern repeatedly, which isn't characteristic of narcissistic behavior, but rather of someone regretting their impulsive, inappropriate remarks. I encounter this frequently with untreated or undiagnosed neurodivergent parents. His toxic, controlling behavior with the boys during and after COVID likely stems from his upbringing. He views strict, authoritarian tactics as a way to gain his father's approval, but this approach deeply frustrates him because it conflicts with his more free-spirited and emotional nature, traits his father despised in him. These conflicting emotions make him appear unhinged. It's also telling that he equates loyalty, blind rule following, and love. Robyn, with her agenda, adheres to his rules. Cody isn't an innocent victim. He's often a nightmare, but I believe Robyn is the true puppet master. She harbors immense internalized misogyny and is highly manipulative. She knows how to manipulate Cody better than the others, not because she's smarter, but because she's more motivated. The other women are more independent and financially self-sufficient, so they care less about placating Cody. Robyn, on the other hand, never appears genuinely happy. She's in a constant state of what she perceives as survival because the show and Cody are her paycheck. I firmly believe that Janelle is the only one truly capable of thriving in a plural marriage, although even she has her limits with Cody. If Cody had been raised in a laid-back, loving, and creative family with more accepting beliefs, he would be a completely different person. I don't think he would be the raging jerk he is now, which is why I don't see his narcissism as innate. Is he a mess? Absolutely, but he's not a true narcissist. I agree that people are often too quick to diagnose mental health issues. Some people are just jerks, and I think Cody is one of them. However, I disagree about Robyn controlling him. I believe she's in a state of survival due to the inherently unfair system of polygamy, not because Cody is her paycheck. Many stay-at-home moms rely on their husbands for income and aren't dysfunctional. Hey everyone, it's me Selena. Welcome back to my channel. If you love Sister Wives show, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and join our community. They all need intensive therapy, Christine's self-help personality quizzes, Janelle's life coaching services, No Thanks, Girl, and Mary's Worthy Up program don't change the fact that they're all dysfunctional. After my first viewing, I was inclined to agree with you. One thing is clear, all the women, including Robyn, are victims of a horrifically patriarchal and abusive set of beliefs and religious doctrines. That said, after my second and even third viewing of some episodes, my perspective shifted. I don't think Robyn is inherently bad because of her behavior. Even devious, manipulative behaviors can be learned survival skills. However, she has certainly bought into Cody's patriarchal ideals. His other wives softened him over the years, leading up to the start of the show, but Robyn has reinforced his worst tendencies. Now, obviously, Cody is a grown man and ultimately responsible for his own behavior, but I see Robyn as very toxic and controlling, and she works hard to make life miserable for the other women. Again, none of them are perfect or even close to it. They all need intensive therapy and significant religious deconstruction. I usually just lurk here, but I had to comment. As an LCSW/psychologist, I completely agree that the term narcissist is overused. In Cody's case, I understand why people might label him as such since he exhibits many narcissistic traits, but I don't believe he is a true narcissist. I work with previously incarcerated individuals and a coworker, and I often discuss how Cody shares traits with people who had to adopt a persona in prison to survive. These individuals often come off as unhinged narcissists, but they aren't truly so. Their behavior is a survival mechanism that conflicts with their true nature. I agree with much of what has been said, and want to add that in later seasons, it seems like Cody may have started taking testosterone or become influenced by the manosphere or something similar because his personality appears to shift. Initially, he was a product of his difficult upbringing. We get glimpses of this, like the story about wanting a Letterman jacket but receiving coveralls instead. The story is told in a casual, aw shucks manner, but it's clear there's deeper hurt there. Regarding some of the awful things he says, like Isabel having surgery alone, I genuinely think that's a severe, unfiltered ADHD thought process at play. That's intriguing. Robyn, despite not being the most reliable judge, often excuses Cody's harsh remarks by suggesting that it's just his way of processing things, by verbalizing every thought he has. She portrays him as some kind of creative artist that others need to be patient with. It's challenging because, on one hand, we want to say he's an adult and should learn to control that part of his mind. On the other hand, I've seen people on the spectrum or with severe ADHD who are incredibly compassionate struggle with this behavior well into middle age and beyond. I remember the exact scene you're referring to where Robyn explains this. I think this is partly why people say she speaks Cody. It's also important to remember that Robyn's oldest son is on the autism spectrum. There have been many instances where he blurts out insensitive remarks, such as during his sister's panic attack. Robyn seems more skilled at distinguishing between his unfiltered comments and his actual thought process. Cody needs intensive cognitive behavioral therapy. At the end of the day, regardless of whether we are neurodivergent, being a parent takes precedence. It's our responsibility, even if we struggle with these issues, to learn how to manage them so we don't harm our children. I really appreciate this perspective. We may never fully understand, but it feels very human. I believe they are all shaped by their upbringings, circumstances, and beliefs/religion in different ways. The ways they've chosen to cope or make sense of their situation have caused harm, some more severely and visibly than others. It's all very sad. They all have a responsibility to do better and grow, but some seem not to have embraced that. I agree. One of the issues here is that Cody and Robyn aren't what we might call deep thinkers. A significant part of Cody's anger stems from being perceived as mean when that's not his intention. He wants to do what's right but defaults to the toxic attitudes from his upbringing. He is genuinely hurt that his wives and kids have turned away from him. He feels he has treated Meri well, especially when he compares his actions to those of other harsher patriarchs in polygamy who might have beaten or completely banished her from the family over her aborted affair. He cannot understand Christine's disloyalty after his completely normal treatment of her once she was no longer fertile. She brought a lightness and brightness to him and the family that is sorely missed. And what did he do wrong? He never beat her, never threw her kids out, and continued to have a relationship with them. He even married her despite not finding her attractive, which he sees as a significant sacrifice. As for Janelle, he's baffled by her behavior. He believes that a wife's primary loyalty should be to her husband and her priesthood holder. And rather than follow this basic cultural tenet, she chose her sons, young men who should have been out in the world, earning a living and starting their own families, over Cody, who had loved her for so long. Such behavior is abominable. As a social worker, I completely agree. Nowadays, everyone seems to be diagnosed as a narcissist on the internet, but Cody clearly doesn't fit that description. Thinking you're great and being a narcissist are very different. While he certainly has his flaws and lost sight of how important his family was over the years, he does show vulnerability and genuine moments of love and care for his family, especially in the early seasons. He's more of an asshole shaped by an exploitative religion than a narcissist. It's important to remember that narcissism exists on a spectrum. Psychologists group individuals into different categories more to identify behavior patterns than to label the people themselves. Narcissistic individuals don't all act the same. They have unique combinations of traits that manifest differently in each person. In the end, it doesn't matter if someone can be strictly defined as a true narcissist. What matters are the behavior patterns, grandiosity, entitlement, variable empathy, etc., and their consistency. Recognizing these patterns helps you understand what you're dealing with as a non-narcissist interacting with them, so you know what to expect.